Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, please join me in welcoming the Mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, the Honorable Carmen Cruz Soto.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Come on, higher, come on. I can't hear you, come on. Do you guys upstairs, go. Thank you so much. Wow. Viva Puerto Rico. And there's a lot of nasty women, huh? Look, I'll give you a little test of how many Puerto Ricans there are here. Yo soy boricua. Thank you very much. I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much, really. I hate to call you Mrs. Weissman because you're a badass. You know, I could tell the minute I walked into that place that you had this man under control. I was like, you know, she's cool. And then she tells me her age, which I'm not going to divulge here. And he says, I'm older than her. He didn't say I'm wiser than her. But thank you very much, really, for making this a real opportunity and something to remember. I look at you and I see so much hope. And I look at you and I see so much diversity. I look at you and I see what we are. Different people coming together to do things differently. So, you see, September 20th will mark the very difficult time in our lives. We literally had nothing. 3 days before Maria hit Puerto Rico, I called my staff at 3 o'clock in the morning. They knew better than not to answer the phone. And I said, buy everything you can. Buy more medicine, buy more food, buy more water, get more diesel, get more ice, but make sure we have everything we need. Because this thing nos va a partir por el medio. I don't know how to say that in English. It's going to break us in two. And I had never said that on my 5 years of being a mayor. I've always said, let's be ready, but this storm is going to pass us by and we're going to be able to deal with it. But somehow, it seemed like it was going to be very difficult. So we did. We got ready. Now we spend or invested about $10 million getting ready. And you know, when things are coming your way that are as huge as Maria, people ask you to pay a lot of things for cash. So your cash flow in the city starts getting a little tied up. We spent the night at the largest shelter in Puerto Rico. The municipality had 7 shelters. Sir, would it screw it up too much for you if I walked around? Would that be too bad for you? All right, I'm going to make it bad, and so I'm just asking to be polite. So, seven shelters, and people think about Maria, but they forget about Irma 3 weeks before. So we had been knocked down and, swaying and all of a sudden, boom, here comes a second shot. I spent that night at El Coliseo Roberto Clemente. It's a venue for concerts and basketball and volleyball. You know a little bit about volleyball here. And all of a sudden, I decided to put my head to rest. And I hear this whimpering voice, Alcaldesa, Alcaldesa. I hadn't gone to sleep. It was like 4 a.m. And my husband at the time, I want to make sure everyone listening via internet knows I'm single now. I'm not taking applications, but if an opportunity should arise, I like the Girl Scout motto, be prepared, right? So I'm putting my head down, and my husband at the time comes and says, Mira, Yulín, levántate, que se está cayendo el techo del Coliseo. I said, what? So it wasn't that the Coliseum dome was about to cave in. It was that the lights in the Coliseum and all of the sound system was right in the middle. So the Coliseum was doing what it was structured to do, but nobody ever expected it to have to be doing. Started swaying. So just imagine, everybody look up for 1 second, and just imagine this dome swaying, and you're there and you're sleeping and you're in a cot and you're like knowing that you're going to be inside this building for the next 5 to 7 days, because that's what we were told. So I stood in the middle. I had a bullhorn. I stood in the middle of everything that could fall down. I'm telling you this because I'm supposed to speak about leadership. So I go there and I stand in the middle, and I'm telling everybody, listen, people, you have to move out because we want to make sure that nobody gets really hurt if somebody falls or something falls. And I see my staff going. And I keep on going, and people were scared. They were terrified. All you could hear was, it was as if a war was going on outside. So I told people, okay, now we're going to do this very calm and collected. We're going to sing Despacito while we do it. So I said, okay, on the count of 3, Despacito, vamos a movernos bien despacito, para que nadie diga, ay, bendito. And my staff is like, and I finally go, where's Tito? Tito and Gloriana. Oh, you're there, right? When I go like this, it's big trouble, right? So I go. And one of them comes over and says, you're standing right underneath the thing that can fall. And I said, well, you should have told me before. Right? And what does that have to do with leadership? Once you're committed to a course of action, you're committed to that course of action. So I was scared, but I couldn't show it because my job there was to lead. And you cannot lead out of fear. That does not mean that you don't feel any fear. And this is something that is very important because, as we grow, and I am so glad to see so many gentlemen here tonight. Thank you very much for your courage. Thank you very much, because it is obvious you're confident in your skin. But I'm going to show you what real power looks like. So every woman here raise their hand. See, they don't look too happy when we do that. But from the minute we are little, somebody's always telling us, El nene de la casa no llora. You know, the boys don't cry. But girls, it's okay to show your emotion. It's okay to be afraid. Of course it's okay. But when you are a leader, there are times where you cannot show it. So I went back, as a good woman does, and I stood there and my legs were shaking like this. I couldn't control it, you know. But my voice was sharp. And I started singing Despacito and I could see the thing sway and finally I went. And if I die, I literally said this, make sure that they use the Puerto Rican flag with the light blue color, which is that one over there. So I want somebody to be writing this down. Tito, write it down. So the first lesson is once you're committed to something, you continue to do it. The second one is knowing that fear is going to be felt, but it is what you do about it. You are going to feel angry. And it is how do you turn that anger into a positive thing? Sometimes you are going to feel lost and sometimes you are going to feel hurt. You know what happened minutes before I came here? The House of Representatives in Puerto Rico, on a partisan vote, decided that they were not going to congratulate me on being not only one of the 100 most influential people in the world, but of the 20 leaders in the world, of which 3 were women, and I was the only Latino. So they decided on a partisan vote that they weren't going to do that. Well, you know what? And I thank you, ma'am. But the third rule for me of leadership is that you don't ever expect those that cannot stand up to see you when you're doing so. So you move forward. A veces la gente están tan acostumbradas a estar de rodillas que no saben cómo ponerse de pie. No? And the translation for that is sometimes people are so used to being on their knees they don't know how to stand up. So sometimes when those that don't agree with you don't validate you, that is a badge of honor, ladies. Haters will be haters. So as the day went by, I started getting antsy. We had 685 people at that shelter. We had 200 employees at the shelter that had left their home. We had placed 21 washers and dryers for Irma. And I was ridiculed in Puerto Rico. Mira, what is she doing putting washers and dryers, you know? Only a woman could think of that. Yeah, you bet, because we're prepared, you know? Because at some point, people weren't going to have clothes. They were going to be dirty. Our policemen were going to be able to use their uniforms. So other people at the office, it would be okay if they couldn't use their uniforms. If you couldn't have a cop not use their uniforms. So we put 21 washers and 21 dryers. I like the number 7, so everything has to be in multiples of 7. That's it. There's no 21 salute to laundry. No. And we moved ahead. Another thing that I've learned about leadership is you take care of your own. You never leave anyone behind. So if there's a place where she cannot go because her wheelchair cannot get there, none of you go. That's just the way it is. And if you have a friend that's Muslim and Muslims are not allowed somewhere, you don't go, period. We never leave anyone behind. That's not an option. If you want to be a true leader, people will follow you if you let them lead you. And I know that sounds strange, but people will follow you if you let them lead you. And we, women, have an advantage. And I say this with profound humility. We let our hearts get in the way. We let our hearts get in the way. And true leaders, whether you're a man, you're a boy, you're a girl, you're a woman, you're old, you're young, you're black, you're brown, you're white, you're transgender, you're LGBTQ, it doesn't matter. True leadership comes from the heart. Abraham Lincoln used to say, you can't be a better speaker than you are a person. He's wrong with me, but that's another story. But it's the truth, because you can, I'm sorry, Mrs. Weissman, maybe this is the wrong thing to say. You can fake it sometimes, you can't fake it all the time. You know, people will know. They will know. So, the municipal employee said, ma'am, we have a problem. Yes, you want to go out now at 7 o'clock in the morning. There still is storm winds. What's the problem? Nobody wanted to tell me. And I said, tell me. They said, well, we're afraid the winds will take you away. That's what we're afraid. And so you'll have to grab onto somebody. So, okay, they gave me this huge guy to grab onto, and I did. They were right. The winds were still. There was a deep silence in San Juan. There was darkness everywhere. There was a profound feeling that something was not right, that the San Juan we knew would never be there again, and therefore the Puerto Rico we knew would never be there again. And the only thing breaking that silence was the sobs of men and women going into their homes and seeing that there was nothing left. Roofs completely shattered, house completely leveled. The pet that you loved your entire life, dead. And it was rough to see. And I think about it and I try to be strong, and I can't. Because we knew then that people were going to die. And I said that day in an interview, what I said in this interview, and what I've said a few times before, it isn't the ones that we got out that will stay with me. It's the ones that we couldn't help. And I say this with great respect to everyone. True leadership is not satisfied ever. It's not that we are perfectionists. It's not that we are insatiable. It's that true leadership knows that there's always something else to do. So I couldn't stay awake 24 hours a day. So I couldn't save people 24 hours a day. And people died. And my only hope is that they died knowing that we couldn't get to them, not that we didn't want to get to them. And people died because they didn't have the money to put diesel in the generators. And people died because you know what? I have Jan Schakowsky's, where is it? I lost it. Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky gave me her handkerchief. Gloriana, find it, because I must have lost it back there. And And if you want to be a leader, and it doesn't matter, you don't have to be the leader of the free world, or you don't have to be, you can be a leader in your community, in your house, in your home, in your parish. It doesn't matter. Leadership is exercised from everywhere and anywhere. One good thing about being a leader is knowing when to recognize when the people that work with you, never for you, they work with you. So see, leadership isn't a solo act. It is a collaboration of hundreds of people that pave the way for you. It feels lonely because you have to make decisions that you will always carry in your spirit and in your soul. But those decisions are not carried out if it not be for a group of people. So you have to lead by example. So I took onto the streets of San Juan. I slept in a cot. I ate exactly the food that the people in the shelter ate. I have had more Spam than I didn't know, Mrs. Wiseman. You get Spam with vegetables, fried Spam put in the oven, Italian style Spam, rice and Spam, spaghetti and Spam, mashed potatoes and Spam, potato salad. Well, it was really a jail potato salad because it has nothing except potatoes and Spam. But you see, what kind of a leader would I have been if I would have been playing golf at Mar-a-Lago rather than doing what I had to do? So, you lead by example. You can't expect people to do things that you are not willing to do. And there are times when your presence, you have to recognize this. Leadership is known when you have to be at the forefront and when you have to stay behind. Because there are times when you are not good for the cause. There are times when you have to take a step back and let others do the walking and the talking. And you're just there to support them. That's very easy for women to do. But it's also very easy for women just to stay there. So you have to know that you can take 2 steps forward, but by God, only take 1 step back. And you will always end up in a place further than where you began. So I saw women hanging onto a rope to get to the other side of a river just to get medication for their children. I saw elderly people being hauled out of human cages because that's what buildings became. I saw doctors operating with a light on their cell phone. I saw old and elderly people gasping for air because they had no respirator. Leadership isn't all about clamor. It's about human life. It's about changing the human condition. It's about making sure that everyone has the ability to be better But we don't define better. They define it. They define it. I took on to the streets of San Juan in water infested with human excrement. And I did it because the people that I was working with were doing it. So I couldn't expect them to put their life and their health at risk. And me being a pretty ballerina and stay behind. It's just what you do. Leadership comes from what do you think people are? Do you think they're all worth it? Or do you think, like an animal farm, that some animals are more equal than others? I am the great-granddaughter of a sugarcane plantation worker. My grandmother graduated from high school the same day my dad graduated from grammar school. She worked in a cafeteria at night so my dad could eat in that cafeteria during the day. My parents mortgaged their home twice, so that I could go to Boston University for the first 2 years. I didn't know that until I graduated. So I'm telling you this because your path is not the path that you put in front of you. It's a path that has been paved by women from every single area of this country and the world. By that woman that has to take 2 buses to go to work. By that man that works 3 jobs to put food on the table. So Gentiles and Jews are the same. Black and brown and white and yellow are the same. And if you don't feel that in your heart, if you don't look around this room and look at the richness of the diversity, then your leadership is going to be falling short of a few things. So now, as women, we have another responsibility. It was my responsibility as mayor to ensure that San Juan was doing better. We're still not doing okay. The people of San Juan were not very happy with me because it took me 4 months to pick up 283,000 pounds of debris. Million pounds of debris. 283 million pounds of debris. So as a leader, I had to acknowledge it, and I had to own it, and I explained it. I said, look, I have X number of trucks. Either I use them to take water and food and medication and open the roads, or I use them to clean the parks in San Juan. I'm going to choose life. But I also told them, if that is not what you think I should have done, there's an election in 2020. Vote against me. Leadership is not about imposing what you think. It's about putting it out there for people to figure it out. If they agree with you, they will vote for you. If they don't agree with you, they will vote you out. That is what democracy is. And if we respect it, we respect it. And if we don't, then let's call it something else. So I couldn't be a selfish leader. I couldn't say, oh, I'm going to rant and rave and scream and shout. But I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a deficit of height. And I was very little when I was younger. I know that Sonia, our president, wanted to put me down there by saying that I was born in 1963, which makes me 55 years old, but I look good, damn it. Every time I say I'm 55, you're going to say, and you look so good. I have a 27-year-old daughter because I'm 55. So you see, leadership is about listening to the people. And they're not always going to say nice things. And they're not always going to agree with you. You just make sure that they agree with you more times than they disagree with you. That's just a good equation to have. So other mayors were coming to me because my not so good friends at FEMA were asking us, as I said, to register via internet when we had no electricity. See, common sense is the least common of the senses. And they were asking us for reports. You know, we'd go to a meeting. I couldn't bathe after bathing in water with human excrement because there was no water. And the doctors kept telling me, you have to rub yourself with alcohol. And I'm like, really, I'm up to here. I'm not about to rub certain parts of my body with alcohol. I'm not going to do it, so this is it. Huh? And I got there, somebody said, ouch. So I would get to these meetings and sit down, and they'd be perfectly bathed. Iron shirts. And they would go something like this, yes, Mayor, we would like to know what your priorities for today are. Because our distinguished hosts are here tonight, I will not use the four-letter words that I used at the time. What my priorities were, saving lives. That's what it was. So we picked up 283 million pounds of debris. We gave out 273,000 what we call hope boxes. Because where the government was failing, the American people had a surplus of love. Where there was a deficit of urgency, the American people have a surplus of heart. Where there was a surplus of give me a memo, the American people just said, look, it's pretty basic. Food, water, diapers, milk, tarps, medicine, on a plane down there. And it was the American people and volunteers that got to places where the government couldn't get to because the logistics, they said, were unsurmountable. That's what they said. So you see, if you are going to pursue a life as a civil servant, make sure you understand that that is not a word. It's a way of life. You are a civil servant. You are a What is this? Tell me. Or rather than clapping, you do this? Oh, we agree with you. I've gotten a lot of hand gestures, but none like this. So you see, where FEMA was failing, the American people were thriving. And they understood we didn't want electricity to bathe in hot water. We wanted electricity to survive. We wanted electricity to keep insulin refrigerated. We wanted electricity so our children could go back to school. We wanted electricity so literally 3,000 containers that were in our ports that could not be taken out of the ports to provide the things that we needed could be taken out. Now, as a leader, you have to at some point say, no is not acceptable. I went to Pittsburgh, as Sonia told you, and in Pittsburgh they say, I am fixing to, rather than I am getting ready to. Just like the people in Boston park the car. So, I parked the car in Harvard Square. Well, it was evident that the people from FEMA had a clue, but that the higher echelons of leadership weren't telling them or giving them free rein on what to do. And so the weeks went by, and mayors started coming to me and telling me, I have no food, I have no water, I have no diapers for the elderly, I have no food for babies. So what was I supposed to do? Think about the political calculation, or like Mandela said, think about the human calculation. So I was telling you why I was little, and my grandmother, God bless her soul, I know there's a few people here that would remember the Aladdin lunch boxes. They were very sturdy and heavy. So she told me, look, you're very little, so if you get into a fight, you're going to have one chance. That's it. One chance only. And you're going to have to hit a little hard, run a little fast, and scream a little louder. So that was my plan. I would hit a little harder, run a little faster, and scream a little louder. I am not telling you to be violent. But my grandmother always told me, you never start a fight. You never start a fight. So I would get scolded if I started the fight. And I would get beaten if I didn't finish it. Mm-hmm. So one day I get this call at 5:45 in the morning. I said, Mayor, I know that you told us it because we made the Coliseum be like a compound. But there's a 17-year-old kid there crying outside that says he's from Barranquitas, which is a town very in the inside part, and says he cannot go back to his community, his barrio, without taking food. So I asked him to bring him to me. And, leadership is not only about what people tell you, it's about what they don't tell you. It's about connecting with humans. The first question that we asked every time was, are you hungry? Have you had anything to eat? And undoubtedly, people would say, I'm okay, which means I haven't had anything to eat, but I'm too proud to ask. And we would say, well, sit down over there. First rule of getting help is you have to help. You've taken a plane and they tell you, put your mask on first and then help the others. You think that's selfish. Well, no, it's necessary, because if you pass out from lack of oxygen, you won't be able to help anybody else. So that kid told me something that I will never forget. He started crying. And first of all, when we put a plate of food, of course, Spam, in front of him, he went like this. And I said, what do you need? And he said, Julene, I couldn't make it here to San Juan. We actually sucked the gasoline from cars through hoses to make sure the tank in my car was filled. And when I told them I was going to San Juan to get food, they all applauded and cheered. And I cannot go back home with nothing. This is a 17-year-old boy. Now, leadership has to be compassionate but not stupid. So I didn't send him alone with 3 trucks of food because I didn't know him. So I sent that man that's over there, Tito Otero. And I told them, Tito, make sure that this, well, you know, people were hungry. So although I am so happy and glad to be amongst you and to get all this recognition, I am also very cognizant that this isn't about me. I did what I had to do when it needed to be done, because now there are politicians in Puerto Rico 8 months later saying, well, you know, we feel like it wasn't the right and efficient way to handle from a federal government. Well, no shit, 8 months later? Yeah? So don't be afraid to speak up. Some people will like it, some people won't like it. And there is nothing that upsets some insecure people more than a woman that knows exactly what to do and exactly when to do it. Right? And this isn't about being anti-men, no. This is about being in a community of men and women and LGBTQ and transgender and whatever anything else comes along. This is about being together and fighting together. This is about putting health before wealth. So when I spoke up, people started calling me, and I remember the first time I got a call and said, Julene, yeah, somebody named Elizabeth Warren is on your cell phone? And I said, nuh-uh. So I'm like, yes. Hi, Mayor Cruz. Yes. This is Elizabeth Warren. And I thought, and you see, she didn't ask for a memo. She didn't ask me what my priorities were that day. She did what a human asks. What can I do to help? And since then, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Kirsten Gillibrand, Luis Gutierrez, Nidia Velázquez have all become spokes and advocates for Puerto Rico. And you say, oh, they're all Democrats. Well, no, I have one for you, John McCain. Because when others were saying, oh no, we cannot lift the Jones Act and ensure that help gets to Puerto Rico, John McCain had the pants to say, you know what, it's wrong, and we have to stop that. Leadership, sometimes it's going against the current and against the tide, right? It's not always leading, sometimes it's following. And I want you to get that in your head. Because if I've learned something in this past month, I was shocked to learn it, is that I couldn't do everything. Is that I wasn't enough by myself. Is that I needed everybody. So I called on all the religious leaders in San Juan, people that I've had profound differences with. And I put them all in a room and I said, I need your help. And I lowered my head and I said, I need your help. Ma'am, please don't do that. Stay. Stay. If anyone cannot deal with a citizen complaining and demanding his rights, you can stand up and go. Why is it that every time there's a conversation that's important, it is the woman that has the child that has to leave? And you know what happened? A lot of you turned around and looked at her. Yeah. Why? Why does she have to go? Why? Why are we incapable of seeing that the little things we do matter? You know, when you throw paper towels at people that are asking for help, it matters. You do not do that. I mean, I was there. I had a child once. As you know, I told you I'm 55. Thank you. You have to say "wepa" when I turn around. That's what I mean. But I'm gonna start bringing it home and tell you a few things. So we've gone from the belly of hell to the gates of hell, but it's still hell. There's still 500,000 people whose roofs are in really bad shape. They have tarps or semi-permanent roofs. Suicide rate has gone up 55%. Let's not talk about the children that have challenges. Nobody's disabled. They're all able to do something. I'm heavily dyslexic, which is why you're heavily dyslexic too? Yeah. I've never had anyone cheer for that. That's so cool. You're dyslexic too, Sophia? Oh, now I don't feel alone. So I had Miss Daisy, and we've all had a Miss Daisy. We've all had a teacher that has profoundly impacted our life, and you're going to start thinking about it. I say Miss Daisy, and my hands start getting sweaty. And she's like, Miss Cruz, stand up straight. To this day, she tells me, Miss Cruz, stand up straight. And I'm like, oh, yes, Miss Daisy. It's funny what you think leadership is about. And, you know, my father, God bless his soul, he has Alzheimer's, and he's bedridden. He sometimes remembers I'm his daughter, and sometimes remembers I'm the mayor. So in my family, they try to take advantage of that. When things are not going the right way, they say the mayor is coming. So 2 weeks ago, I walk in like the mayor is coming because he didn't want to take his medication. And he said, yeah, I know you. You may be the mayor out there, but in here, I'm the king. And I thought, I said to my mother, I'm not going to argue with him. And you say, what does that have to do with leadership? Well, you know, if you start putting labels on people and you say, this is a dyslexic kid, I can't learn how to read or write. You know, Miss Daisy sat me in her lap and taught me how to read when I was 3 years old. Nobody paid her. Nobody asked her. Nobody gave her extra money. She just knew that here was a child that perhaps could someday do something. Plus, really, when it comes down to it, and I hope she's not watching this, I was like the classroom pet. Because Miss Daisy would put me on her desk when she went to the bathroom, and I would entertain the classroom. And one day I was getting really lost. I couldn't, you know what I mean? I couldn't tell my left from my right. I can assure you, in my politics, I can tell my left. But and I started to cry, and she said, why are you crying? And I said, they're making fun of me. And she put a little ribbon on my left hand, and she said, here, it's very easy. Your left is where your heart is. So I'm going to put a little ribbon in your hand so you don't forget, ever forget. Well, I wear all these things in honor of Miss Daisy. Now, at some point, if you're a leader, or you want to be a leader, or you want to exert leadership, which you can do from where you're sitting right now, you have to shake things up. And the months went by, and things were really bad, and it came up to a point where people in Puerto Rico were like all about, everything's bad, everything's dark, we don't have any electricity, we don't have enough food, we don't have enough water, and then it starts creating a self-defeating prophecy. So at some point, you have to shake it. I told everybody November is the month when we're going to start shaking it. There will be no more excuses. We're going to move forward. We're going to push forward. We're going to transform. We're not only going to rebuild, we're going to transform, because we want to have permanent solutions to recurring problems. This is why I advocate, oh, come on, 1, 2, 3. This is why I advocate for a waiver of the Stafford Act, the act that gives life to FEMA, because they give you money to put back a home that was a shack, and you have to make it a shack. Well, you know, the next time that, how do you call in English, los tres cerditos y el lobo? Oh, just like that, the 3 little pigs? I thought it was going to be something more, you know. A pig is a pig. So you, a huff and a puff will come and the house will fly away. So we are working in a project now, putting together, we have diverted all of our CDBG money, Community Development Block Grant money, and put it into building homes. But we're not gonna just, you know, put a roof over you. We're gonna tear down your home and we're gonna do it. And we have the community select which street they want, which families are the ones that are the most in need, and what type of home do they want. We want to make them resilient. We want to make sure that we harvest the rain and that we use the sun. There's 322 days out of 365 days in Puerto Rico of sun. solar power. You know? So I saw something at Mount Holyoke Community College that I like today. If there's something similar here, I am not shy. A true leader is not afraid to steal good ideas. You ask for permission, actually. They had a little thing that was just a battery over there, and it was a charger. You could charge your cell phone. And that's very important once communications are up and running. So we're looking at diversifying our energy source. We're looking at putting together microgrids in our communities. We're looking at ensuring that gentrification does not happen on a massive scale or a minimal scale in Puerto Rico. Five hundred thousand Puerto Ricans have left Puerto Rico since November. In the past year and a half, 500 billionaires have moved to Puerto Rico. There's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong with money. Money bought everything that we have here today. Because you can't buy those seats with good wishes. It's how you make it and how you spend it that counts. And what kind of social responsibility do you have? So you see, you have two people here that are extremely socially responsible. So we are looking at having difficult conversations. Conversations about what our priority is going to be. Conversations to own up to our own mistakes. Because as bad as it was for the president to throw paper towels, it was even worse that no one there called him on it. You know, you think he's going to throw a paper towel at me and I'm going to take a selfie with him? No. So you see, dignity is not something that the other gives you. Dignity is something that you have, that you demand every single day. And ladies and women, no means no. Period. Period. So as we move to a different type of leadership, I find myself being very conflicted. I find myself staying up at night. I find myself reading more and more and more and more. I'm reading right now a book called Faith by President Jimmy Carter. I'm reading a book written by Martin Luther King of his most important speeches. I'm reading a book about two immigrants that came from El Salvador. I'm reading a book called The Time Is Now by Danielle Steele. A girl can hope. I read the latest book by Secretary Hillary Clinton. I'm reading the book by Comey. And he said, does she have time to read all of that? Well, I'm sorry to tell you, ladies, this is it. You're going to have to fly the plane and learn how to fix it at the same time. I'm sorry to tell Sophia, school does not end when she takes her last final, when she goes to graduate school, when you get your PhD. School is life. Life is school. You will continue to learn. So I find myself conflicted. Because the more I know that the lines are really blurred, that there is no difference amongst us. I know that the structured environment that allowed the indignity and the injustice that was put on Puerto Rico, because we are a territory, which is a euphemism for being a colony. That it has to change, because it is about people's lives. So it has to change into a dignified relationship with the United States. Now, there are people at home that think various things. Some think they want independence, some want statehood, some want enhanced Commonwealth outside of the territorial clause. Some, like me, like free association with the link of the American citizenship and a Puerto Rican citizenship to go along with. So there's all kinds of spectrum of ideological possibilities. So what we need to do, I think, is sit down with our counterparts in the United States and just start a dialogue that will speak about a process and will tell us where this process will end, and then let the will of the people be heard. Because those words, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, were signed by immigrants. The other day, I was honored to go on a tour of the Supreme Court, and the tour guide was telling us all about how all of the marble outside of the Supreme Court is from the U.S., but the marble in the chambers of the Supreme Court, it's all brought from Europe. And the signer of the Supreme Court was a German immigrant. Now, is that poetic justice or what? So you see, the lines get blurred. And we realize, or I've realized, that in order to move forward, you have to breathe a little. And you have to remember as a leader that this is not about you. So my nature, I go back to that play yard on grammar school, was when I heard that, oh, well, you know, we're not going to congratulate a woman, and they said it like that, a woman. Because there are streets in San Juan that are dirty. There are. There are. And I have to do better in that area. But my fighting spirit told me to send a hate tweet. I don't tweet at 3 a.m. But then I thought that as a leader, you have to learn to choose your fights. And that you either use your time to set a new path, or you waste your time with those that just don't get it. So I hope no woman in this room has to say, "Me too," ever in her life. But if you do, know that you're not alone, that there's a lot of women out there that have fought the fight and won. I hope no woman here, no man here, feels discriminated by the color of their skin or their accent or the religion that they choose or the person that they choose to love. But if you do, know that you're not alone. I hope that every child in the suburbs of Holyoke or in San Juan can have an education so that they can rise as far as their spirit can take them. And as long as I'm in office, I will move forward and never look back. Because it is about people. It isn't about who's in office. It isn't about you. It's about how you are a vehicle to change people's lives. Otherwise, why did Nelson Mandela endure 27 years in prison? Why did Oscar Lopez endure 36 years in prison? Why did Rosa Parks stand up and say, enough is enough? She actually said, no, that's what she said. Now, Amy is going to be glad when I say this. Eleanor Roosevelt. I swear, don't tell anybody, but where we're staying, I think Eleanor Roosevelt walks around there at night. There's some strange noises going on there. Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Say it with me. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Say it again.
No one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
Now say it like you mean it.
No one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
Well, hell, don't consent. Don't consent. Don't give those that want to drag you down the power. I was at Girls Inc. yesterday, and this morning with some students at Holyoke Community College, and we sang this song, and if you know it, sing it with me. It's, you are beautiful, no matter what they say, 'cause words can bring me down. Oh, oh. You are beautiful in every single way. Words can bring me down. Whoa, don't you bring me down today. Don't let anybody bring you down, not today, but no one day of your life. And remember my grandmother, Julene Vega, from Ensenada, Guanica in Puerto Rico. Don't ever start a fight, but don't ever, ever, ever walk away from one and finish them all. Every single day of your life. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.